In all seriousness, this is a good build, but it takes 2 to 3 days before it actually gets a little bit boring. Good news is probably only have 2 to 3 days to play this anyway before the next patch comes out. And in honor of the next patch, this is actually called patch, because we are going to end up throwing away our guns, just like we're going to end up throwing away our guns in the next hotfix. Except for these guns, when we throw them, they actually still do damage. So we have the Tediore here. This is going to be our main gun, and it actually has MIRV and it has homing on it. The homing aspect of this allows for us to throw it at the ground, which will not only allow us to heal using the transformer, but it will keep on tracking the enemy and do a ton of damage. So there's kind of like a sweet spot where you want to throw it at in order to go ahead and heal yourself. If you throw it a little too close to yourself, it just bounces and it doesn't do anything at all. Or if you throw it out a bit too far, you don't actually get the healing. You can play around with it. It takes a little bit to understand where the sweet spot is, but once you get it, you're good to go. You'll be able to see me missing it in the upcoming video. Relatively easy for Slaughter Shaft. So you do want a Tediore that is set up like this. This is the one that I actually got from the vending machine inside a sanctuary. This one is not a homing one. This was initially for the anointed enemies, but I just end up using this anyway. This does pretty good damage. It is a homing, like has a rocket aspect to it. Yeah, when thrown, target, yeah, it's a whole target. Then there's a propulsion aspect to it as well, right? Nope, that's inside the other one. Wasted some time. So this one has a propulsion portion to it. So we typically just end up using this one. This one works out well. Also, for bosses, you can use this, but for Graveward, the loot is going to work way better. I have some Graveward killing footage of using the Tediore, so you can see a good gauge of that. Also, I have some Tyreen footage of just using the Tediore, so you can see that. Some other guns that you can end up putting inside the looter slot, or just end up using a different gun than the Tediore. If you do have one that is not as good as this one, or possibly as good as a MIRV version of this, MIRV version of this might be super duper good. You can use something like the Protuberance. I'm not sure how not bugged this gun is because I have this also. So one of these is not the way it's supposed to be. So we're utilizing the good old Luda, we're using this. And then if you do find one that has sticky and fire, might work out super well for bosses due to being able to target that weak spot and do a ton of damage. I ended up throwing out those because, as you can see, I'm kind of lost when it comes to space. My space is a little rough right now. The face puncher right here will work in conjunction with the cut purse, which will allow us to get back all of our ammo in about 1 or 2 shots typically. This thing is amazing. So the rolls that you do want for this are going to be shock damage, works out well. Something to do with Tediore, possibly reload if you can find one like that. And the shield is cool also. This is a pretty good one. Having Victory Rush on this works out pretty well. Auto idle isn't going to give us as much value as it does in normal flak builds due to us being mainly like shield based. We're a hybrid of the two, but we're able to get back our shield in one throw, so it is not really needed. I like Victory Rush a bit better. For the grenade right here, we're using the Stormfront at the moment. Stormfront does pretty good damage. You can also use a Hex Grenade if you didn't end up throwing all those away, like I have them in the bank right now. It works well with head count, which is the thing that allows you to get cooldown reduction on your crits. You can use it as utility. It works super duper well in this setup. We're just using the Stormfront to add a little bit more damage. You have a nice little rotation where you end up throwing out the Tediore, and then in your reload, you end up throwing out the grenade, and then shoot, reload, grenade, shoot, reload, grenade. It's a nice little rotation. And we're utilizing this class mod as the mobbing portion of the build. This 25% hunter skill power is going to help us out immensely, and not only allow us to get more damage, but also more reload. More reload is basically equivalent to fire rate inside of the setup, and I'll get a little bit more into that in a bit. What you want to have for these substats are going to be things that you basically want in this one. Reload speed is going to work out well. Something related to damage like Tediore damage, and damage reduction would be cool. You don't really need it, but it will help out as well. The stat setup that I have right here is good, but you do want a bit more points into big game. Big game is going to really shine and help out your overall hunter skill power setup inside this build. So let's hop into the hunter skills and the skill tree. Here's a skill tree for the hunter. We have this maxed out so that we can get the most damage that we can possibly get out of it. We have 2 points to Leave No Trace. So Leave No Trace is there not only for the Luda and those small portions where we're going to end up using that for some of the bosses. We're also able to utilize this to get back one of the pellets when we are using a shotgun, because we have one right now that shoots two ammos per shot. Shoots 2 pieces of ammo per shot. What is ammos? Ammo's a word? Ammo's not a word. You're able to consume 2 pieces of ammo per shot, and then this will allow us to get one of those back, which means that we're able to do a little bit more damage due to the Tediore scaling off of magazine size relatively well. Big game is going to allow you to get the most benefit out of your good old skill effects, so that's going to boost up something like this. Second Intention, Interplanetary Stalker, Furious Attack. And then if you were running Frenzy, it would help out that as well. There might be a few more that are lingering around, but we don't really have points into those. So you want big game, definitely have that ramped up. We have points into head count. This is just for those stray crits that we do end up getting. When you end up throwing the gun, if it ends up hitting the person's head, you can get a crit with it. This will help out, and then the grenades might stray and strafe and end up hitting the target's head, which will give you a crit. This is mostly for those stray cases, and we don't really have many points to put into one of these other two that would really help us out that much. As well as if you are using a Merv Hex, you're able to get a nice rotation of crits coming through, which will give you your cooldown back super duper fast in conjunction with Eager to Impress, which we have maxed out. So we don't have points into Two Fang. Two Fang isn't going to provide us with any value because the extra projectile is going to provide like one more shot to our shotgun, which isn't great, and it does nothing for our Tediore throw itself. And we're rocking the Ant here. This is going to provide us with 10% elemental damage, which is just going to help out our whole elemental kit. So we have Fadeaway here. We're using Fadeaway in conjunction with Gorillas in the Mist and Not My Circus. So for Fadeaway, we're running it with Gorillas in the Mist and Not My Circus. Gorillas in the Mist for mobbing. We're not really going to be able to hit crits at will with this good old Fadeaway setup. That is because the throw is not considered a shot, nor are the grenades considered a shot, so you do not automatically crit with Fadeaway. The initial shot is, of course, a shot, so you'll be able to get a crit off of that portion of the setup. Not My Circus is to give the damage reduction to the pet as well as the taunt. The additional taunt, when we are outside of Fadeaway, is going to allow our hidden machine to proc a bit easier because we are not going to be the main target of that individual. 9 times out of 10, we're not really going to be getting hit that much anyway, because we're going to be inside of Fadeaway due to the massive amounts of damage we do in mowing down the enemies in conjunction with Eager to Impress. So it works out super well. When you are fighting bosses, you can swap out Gorillas in the Mist or even Not My Circus and play around with Unblinking Eye and be able to do pretty good damage because they have their crit spots that you're able just to hit relatively easy, instead of having to try to aim at a person's head and then hitting you with a nice little barrel roll out of the way. If I haven't talked about the connection active already, the rain actually came in and washed the spider out, and it also washed out the internet and the electricity for a little bit, actually 3 times in a row. So the rain clapped me up this is stuck here for now. Not sure why, but we ended up doing this run online for it to be the most accurate, you know, as DJ Khaled would say. We'll hop back into the skill tree. We have points into fierce attack. This is never really going to be at 10 stacks. Most of the time at max, I saw it at about 7. If you are fighting an anointed enemy, you'll be able to get a good amount of gun damage from this. If you do find yourself dying a bit too often, you can just put the points into a self-repairing system. It's not really that big of a deal to have this little bit of extra damage. But this does get boosted up by the hunter skill increasing perks though. So Eager to Impress maxes out so we can get our cooldown back on my BFFs. We're just getting some regen for our pet. Fire rate doesn't do anything for us, even though we do get additional fire rate after reloading. That does not marginalize the time in between each individual shot. When you are finished reloading, you can get turn, tail, and run. This is going to give you damage reduction, gun damage, all that good stuff. This is just a random point just to help out a little bit. You can put this point into self-repairing system if you do want to. So look, the wounds, we're just using this because this is a nice little safety net. I didn't have to use this, but it works out. It's cool. Gun damage, of course, and movement speed. This is going to help out everything, your guns, your grenades. We skipped out on this because we are a shield-oriented build for the most part, and typically we don't really put points into rage and recover anyway. And then the power inside is just going to help out everything. You should have this up 90% of the time because you are coming in and out of fade away very, very, very often. And 15 seconds is more than enough to mow down enough enemies to get Eager to Impress to pop up. Eager to Impress to pop up enough to allow you to have your fade away right back. Then we have the 1.2 Persistence Hunter. Typically you would have 3 points into this, but due to us wanting our duration to be a little bit lower, we just have the 1 point there so we can capitalize on the power inside. And then most dangerous game is where we ended up putting those points into, and then this just works better with the whole hunter skill, boosting up everything. Be on the lookout for a deathless version of this. You'll be able to get a ton of shield, so you can play around with that. And when you are fighting bosses, you do want to go ahead and run a bounty hunter class mod. This will allow you to get your hunter kill skills to proc off of your gunshots. So that's pretty much it for the build. It is a crit build at its core. You can run a loot in this and melt down the Graveward just as fast as some of the other builds. And then of course you can run a elemental damage boost inside this set, set yourself on fire and mow it down if you do want to farm with this setup. The rest of the video is going through Slaughter Shaft. You'll be able to see basically the ups and downs of this build. The modifiers are good. They are in my favor in terms of damage, but it's going to be what you're going to be aiming for when you are farming. And do appreciate the likes and the comments that I've been getting for the past few weeks of me. I'm about to say good old good. For the past few weeks of me doing these videos. Glad that they have been helping out. I'll be in the comments as always, answering any questions that you guys have or just chilling out with y'all. And that is all for today. Your boy is outie. video.